Nana Kund, which I was told means the Kund of tears, the Kund from the tears of the gopis. So we went in there to video it, and there was one old Babaji there, sort of in his own little world. He didn't really take much notice of us. So I asked him, what did I say? Well, in broken, very badly broken Hindi, I asked him, anyway, the English would be, what was the pastime here? Something like that. He didn't even look up. On the wall, there was a picture. Actually, it's a well-known picture, like a print of a picture of Krishna getting onto the chariot and gopis collapsing and, surrounding the chariot, etc. And he just sat there, he's chanting away. So I asked him, I forget how I put it. How would you put it? Consolina.
यहाँ कौन सी लीला हुई थी?
Okay, something like that. Not as Paka. And he just went, pointed to the picture. Yeah. So, it's there. It's there if you just look around a bit. The depth of the history. So anyway, a little later, the gopis, when Krishna went on to Mathura and they returned, sooner or later they just came back. And they stayed at Udavakiri, which is just down at the bottom, a couple of 100 meters out from the hill where Nandagram is. And they're talking about, like I mentioned, in a sort of kind of intolerant way. How could that Krishna just abandon us? No, we've given our lives, we gave everything to him. How could he just do it, just get up and go? It's not good. And so then another gopi says, well, he's in Mathura now, surrounded, they already mentioned, did you catch it? He's now surrounded by the city girls, the sophisticated ones with the fancy clothes and jewelry and all that, unlike us village girls. Yeah. So he's surrounded by them, so he's forgotten about us. And one other gopi said, well, if he can forget about us, let's us forget about him. And they'll say, yes, right, we'll forget. Yes, let's forget. We'll forget about him. Yeah, that's what we'll do. So one gopi says, I am going to forget about how he talked with me. Another one said, yes, very good. I am going to forget about how he embraced me. Another one said, right, that's good. I am going to forget how he garlanded me. Yeah, that's the way. And another one said, I'm going to forget. So you get the idea. And then they realized they couldn't forget him. But actually Krishna couldn't forget them either. It really wasn't that he was just absorbed in the company of the fancy, sophisticated city girls. So that's what they're saying here. Well, to Lord Balaram. And, bear in mind, this is some years after Krishna and Balaram left Vrindavan. This is quite some time. I don't know how many years, but it could be 10 or 20. or something along those lines. It's really, some time has passed. And they're still just, overwhelmed by the whole situation. While speaking these words, the young cowherd women remembered Lord Shouldry's laughter, his pleasing conversations with them, his attractive glances, his style of walking, and his loving embraces. Thus, they began to cry. And there's a comment here, not by Prabhupada, of course, because it's chapter 65, but our BBT commentators, just a short comment. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti comments as follows. The gopis thought, the Krishna moon, after piercing our hearts with the darts of his nectarian laughter, went away. So how will the city women not die when he does the same to them? Just wait till, they get put in the position we're in. Yes. Overwhelmed with these thoughts, the young cowherd girls began to cry, even in the presence of Sri Baladev. The Supreme Lord Balaram, the attractor of all, being expert at various kinds of conciliation, consoled the gopis by relaying to them the confidential messages Lord Krishna had sent with him. These messages deeply touched the gopis' hearts because he just arrived. He's just arrived. And just an interesting little point. He's described here as Lord Balaram as being expert at various kinds of conciliation. Lord Balaram is an expert negotiator. We've got a few here, I suppose. You're involved in corporate life, and sometimes some negotiation happens, but he's really expert. There's the pastime where Lord Krishna kidnaps Rukmini and just drives off with her, being pursued by Rukmi, her brother. And finally they stop, and Krishna, with I think some arrows, with some weapons, cuts the hair of Rukmi. There's a picture of it in one of the books. And he really looks very, definitely not like Vedic nobility, royalty or something of that sort. What it reminded me of was kind of a punk rocker gone wrong. Pieces of hair sticking out here, and here, and here, and sort of here or something. He looked really weird. And for a Kshatriya, particularly big Kshatriya, it's just too embarrassing. Just too embarrassing. It would be easier to give up one's life than to appear in public looking like this. Just crazy. So Rukmini is very upset with Krishna. See what you've done to my brother. You've made him like he's just going to be a laughing stock. And then Lord Balaram steps in and negotiates with Rukmini. And I haven't got here there's like a step-by-step discussion. Lord Balaram raises these different points. So, I couldn't tell you exactly as it is, but, he says things that, like that, well, your brother, he was not a nice person. He mistreated you, and he wanted to he was forcing you to marry this Shishupal, who's just such an undesirable. And so Rukmini was, okay, I guess, it wasn't that bad what Krishna did. And a few other things like that, like, you know what Kshatriyas are like. Sometimes they do things like this. So don't be so worried about it. It's just normal for Kshatriyas to fight with each other and sometimes just sort of humiliate each other. And Rukmini had to agree, yeah, you're right. So like this, and in a few other ways, Lord Balaram negotiated, and in the end, Rukmini, because it's their wedding day, in the sense that kidnapping a young lady is by Vedic tradition, an official form of wedding. It's an official form of wedding. And you know what it's called, right? What's it called? Rakshasa style of wedding. That's what it's called. Rakshasa style. But it's official. And if a boy has kidnapped a girl, particularly Kshatriya, and fought for her, and defeated, and maybe killed whoever was trying to stop him, then it's taken, they're married. That's it. Yeah. So Lord Balaram's like that. And so therefore he is referred to here and there with titles like the crest jewel of the wise. Yeah. Balaram's very special. He's Krishna, but he has a quite somewhat different nature to Krishna. Well, I've mentioned before, some of you I'm sure have heard, in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, when Gopakumar arrives in Goloka Vrindavan, he arrives and it's kind of late afternoon and Krishna's about to return and everyone starts coming out to meet and greet Krishna, and so he comes out with them and he sees Krishna and Krishna sees him sort of simultaneously, and they start running towards each other, and they run and they meet and they embrace. You familiar? You read Brihad Bhagavatamrita? You read it? Abhinay. Okay. So they meet and they embrace. And as Gopakumar is holding Krishna in his part of the embrace, Krishna suddenly just faints on the ground, just kind of sort of slithers down onto the ground. And the bridge buses, they say to each other, who is this? Gopakumar. Who is he? Because he just arrived. He had been there before, but long ago, so they forgot who he was. But Krishna didn't forget. So who is this? Who is this? And someone says, I don't know. I never saw him before. And someone says, look what he's done to our Krishna. And someone says, I think he's a servant of Kamsa. So they start moving in. But then what happens? What happens? Tell me what happens. Lord Balaram arrives on the scene. He had been behind a bit. He didn't run forward with Krishna. So he walks in and he sees the bridge buses are just in a combined mood of great distress in separation and a great desire to execute the person who's the cause of the problem. So Lord Balaram, he just steps in and he kneels down next to Krishna and he grabs Gopakumar's hand and just pulls him down next to Krishna. And then he takes Gopakumar's one hand. Well, he puts Krishna's head on Gopakumar's lap and takes Gopakumar's one hand and gets him to stroke the head of Krishna. So now Gopakumar is stroking Krishna's head very nicely. And suddenly, Krishna wakes up, comes back to consciousness. And everyone says, oh, Krishna's all right. Oh, that's wonderful. Who saved him? Who saved Krishna? Who has saved our lives? It was him. Him, Gopak expert. In the Govardhan Leela, I imagine you'd remember, they offer all the food that they were going to offer to Lord Indra. They offer it all to Govardhan. Govardhan consumes it almost just like that, within a few seconds, like not more than 10 seconds. And so then the gigantic form of the Lord hovering over the hill calls out. What does he call out? What does he call out? Aniyo. Yeah, but not like that. Aniyo! 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 Like what? Aniyo! 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 Give me more food. So they go running home and bring whatever's left at home. And there's another huge offering. And Govardhan consumes it all just like that again. And what does he do? Aniyo! 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 Give me more food. But they don't have any more. So they don't know what to do. And they're in anxiety. We gave up the Indra Puja. So that was a failure. And we gave it up to do the Govardhan Puja. But Govardhan is not happy. So our Govardhan Puja is a failure. So we are failures. We've had it. It's a disaster. So what happened next? Lord Balaram took one tulsi leaf and climbed up and gave it to that gigantic form of the Lord, who took it, ate it. I don't know if he chewed it or swallowed it. Let's not get into that. But he took it, yes. And there was no more Aniyo. So that was Balaram. He saved the day again. Otherwise, it was just like a hopeless situation. Yeah. So he's described here as being expert at various kinds of conciliation. There are other similar pastimes. Anyway, there's others too, where Balaram negotiates. Lord Balaram, the personality of Godhead, resided there for the 2 months of Madhu and Madhava. And during the nights, he gave his cowherd girlfriends conjugal pleasure. So the purport, let me just read a bit of that. Srila Sridhar Swami states that the gopis who enjoyed conjugal affairs with Sri Balaram during his visit to Gokula had not taken part in Sri Krishna's rasa dance, being too young at the time. Yes. Srila Jiva Goswami confirms the statement by quoting a phrase from the Bhagavatam 10:15:8, Gopiyon Tarena Pujayo, which indicates that there are particular gopis who act as Lord Balaram's girlfriends. Furthermore, Jiva Goswami states that during the holy festivities celebrated when Krishna killed Shankachuda, the gopis Lord Balaram enjoyed with were different from the ones Lord Krishna enjoyed with. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti agrees with this explanation. In the company of numerous women, Lord Balaram enjoyed in a garden by the Yamuna River. This garden was bathed in the rays of the full moon and caressed by breezes, bearing the fragrance of night blooming lotuses. Sent by the demigod Varuna, the divine Varuni liquor flowed from a tree hollow and made the entire forest even more fragrant with its sweet aroma. The wind carried to Balaram the fragrance of that flood of sweet liquor, and when he smelled it, he went to the tree. There he and his female companions drank. So anyway, the kettle drums from the demigods and the glories of Balaram are being chanted. As his deeds were sung, Lord Halayuda wandered as if inebriated among the various forests with his girlfriends. His eyes rolled from the effects of the liquor. Intoxicated with joy, Lord Balaram sported flower garlands, including the famous Vaijayanti. You know what's a Vaijayanti? Garland?
Garland, 5 flowers.
5 types of flowers, at least, and usually comes down to the feet or thereabouts. He wore a single earring. Did you catch that, gentlemen? It is Balaram conscious to have a single earring. And beads of perspiration decorated his smiling lotus face like snowflakes. The Lord then summoned the Yamuna River so that he could play in her waters, but she disregarded his command, thinking he was drunk. This angered Balaram, and he began dragging the river with the tip of his plough. He said, "O sinful one, disrespecting me, you do not come when I call you, but rather move only by your own whim. Therefore, with the tip of my plough, I shall bring you here in 100 streams." So then, Yamuna surrenders to Lord Balaram, basically. But that place is called Ramghat. And if you've been to Ramghat, you've been to Ramghat? Ramghat. It's nice. Nice place. It's on the Yamuna. Well, it's right on the Yamuna. And it's north of Vrindavan town, about, I don't know, 10 kilometers or something. And when the first time I went there a long time ago, you could see there were various, the Yamuna's flowing, but there are various sort of like, you could say, islands or islets, like this sort of size, not big at all, but they're there in the river, here and there. And they say this is from Lord Balaram with his plough, yeah. So anyway, so like this, Lord Balaram enjoyed his rasa dance with his group of gopis on the, well, I think it's called Balaram Purnima. At least some call it Balaram Purnima. His Vasant rasa dance. Shri Krishna Balaram Ke Jai. Go Premanande.
Thank you very much. Wonderful class. Hope everybody enjoyed that. The next part of the program is we'll do a small arti Gurmat and then we'll take prasad. So, Kirtan.
Arti to the altar.
To the altar Gurmat.
Sure.
Would you like to sing?